you're that's the cool thing about music. It's like, what is the artist? What is their energy? What are they trying to say? But that painting is going to remind me of you when it's sitting on my wall. I had performed at the Masters. I did some live paintings of some of the pros there. I don't listen to the noise.
Welcome to another episode of the Cash Flow Alexio Show. I'm your host, Cash Flow Alexio, and today I have the honor of introducing my latest guest, Sergio Gutierrez. He is a musician and a painter and an overall entertainer. Really awesome guy to be around, super inspiring, and just he's one of those guys that when you talk to him, he's just full of passion, which really lights me up and really everybody around him. So thank you for coming on the podcast today, Sergio. Welcome.
Bro, thank you for having me, man. I watch all of your content, and I'm also inspired just by, your knowledge and your passion, and you're getting really good at this video stuff.
Oh, thanks, dude. Well, I have a good team behind me. I've always been really into like video, but with all of the things that I'm trying to accomplish right now, I just don't have the time to do like the daily cuts and edits and posting. I mean, posting alone, as you probably do,
dude. I have a team as well that does all that. It's like,
yeah, it's a lot. It's a full-time job. I mean, considering like all of the different platforms you got to try to be present on, and you chopping up a long-form video into short bits, and then like chopping a short video into getting rid of all the ums and all the things in between, putting some like, B-roll to keep the squirrel brains interested these days.
Oh yeah. How many different platforms do you post your content on?
So, the one I'm most familiar with and the most active on is Instagram, but we actually post using this thing called Metricool. And it posts on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook. I've got it on Twitter too, or X, and also YouTube Shorts. So it's cool because you can just do one time on that, and my team actually uploads it. They create the caption for it, which all that stuff takes time, thought, energy, and even just the upload and sometimes you upload and then it doesn't process and then it like glitches or something. It drives you nuts, dude, So you have to have a team to do it these days. But you've been doing a lot of cool content too. So why don't we just start by telling the listeners a little bit about what it is that you do and like what does your weekday look like?
What does my weekday look like and what do I do? Well, I guess I should just start off by mentioning my morning routine. Wake up between 4 and 5 a.m. I try to make it a non-negotiable, but of course, sometimes, we're human.
That's early.
Yeah, it is, man. I just feel like at that time, the surroundings are just, it's quiet.
It's peaceful. No one's calling you yet. No one's asking you for stuff. Not only that,
but there's not honking outside. There's not people, there's not fire trucks and stuff, I mean,
it's sacred. Yeah.
It really is. It really is. So, simply, I just wake up, I spend time in silence, time in prayer, I read, I write, I try to learn something, so I'll hit up a YouTube video or two. And then after that, I just simply go through my week and look at the month and just see what I have coming up and what I should prioritize for that day or the rest of the week. And so, if I have gigs, specifically a show that deals with music, am I playing solo? Do I have a band? Do I need to ask the manager or the owner of the venue something? Do I, because in this in the business, like you want to minimize the hiccups,
right?
And that's with any business.
That's just showbiz. People are there. You don't want to have an audio issue or figure out that there's not enough room for the drum set or something like that. Like when you get there,
Well, and even certain things like some venues, you have to consider parking. You have to consider a lot of things. It's not just like, okay, cool, we have a show. Let me bring my guitar and cable and let's go. No, there's just so much more to it that the people they don't realize.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Well, I think that what you said there is really interesting. I think it's unique to a lot of the people that are passionate and are doing really big things is that they all start their day. It doesn't always need to be at 4 a.m. A lot of them do start early,
right?
But at least they start the day with a plan, and they don't just start letting the day direct them where they're going to head.
Right.
They start with what they want to get done for them. That's going to get them towards their longer term goal, and they have these goals, these visions, and passions that they're actively trying to pursue versus just feeling like they're on the roller coaster and, they're going to put out every fire that they can. I mean, inevitably in our industries, we end up doing that at some part during the day, but that's why for me, I like getting up early because I can actually start the day with a couple personal wins.
Right. Exactly. And that's huge. When you can start the day with some personal wins, bro, it's just something. It's just the energy. It's almost like you have like more confidence, more, and I say this in a positive sense, but more power. right? It just sets the day, man. It sets the tone. And also what I've been trying to implement is gaining clarity and writing down the goals for the day and prioritizing everything. Also, I'm one of those dudes where I'll be in the middle of work and I'm like, I kind of need a break. I should get a cup of coffee or something simple. And then a buddy would call me, bro, we need a fourth. We're playing golf, and I'm like, well, this can wait. So, I'm one of those ones where, and all my friends know that too. Yeah. That's the other tough part, right? But the past 3 to 4 months, I have made a promise to myself. If it's not on the calendar today or tomorrow, I'm not doing it.
I'm not doing it. I'm like you too, because everybody, I'm a very social guy. People invite me to do something. In fact, we had to push this contest, this podcast up today because I got invited 2 days ago to be the fourth.
Sure.
And it's hard for me to say no because I love that social thing that lights me up.
Yeah, you love your friends. You love to play golf. You know it's going to be a good time.
You sacrifice your personal, you sacrifice some things that are on your list to do that because you're a people pleaser too. You want to
that too. Yeah,
and it's been I've been kind of gone through the same process over the last 2 years, specifically because now I've got a kid at home and that takes away a lot of the late time hours because you got to be there for your partner to help. Give some relief during the day, and also spend time with your kid. So that's like a huge chunk that, used to be able to be allocated for those last minute whim things, but now it's gone. So the whim stuff, I still have that desire to do it, but I have to be nope, it's not going to fit today. I can maybe make something work on Saturday. I'll get to it later. And I think over time it's become easier just with practice and at first it's really weird making that switch, but
it is really weird because you almost feel a sense of, well, if I don't do it, they're going to think that I don't want to hang out with them. And a lot of times it's just like, oh, okay, cool. Yeah. And then you think oh man, they're going to go have fun. Not that I have FOMO, but I think of the aftermath, are they going to call me back? I want to go golfing with them. I just can't do it today or tomorrow. Right? Will they call me next week if they're going? Right? It's
there's all that. There's all that goes into it for sure.
But I found out not much changes. If they're your friends and they like you, they understand. Especially if you have my closest friends. I've kind of had many talks, pulled them aside, hey, I've got these goals. I really want to crush them. I love you, bro. I would love to hang out more, or I would love to hang out as much as we've been hanging out, but that's not going to happen. And dude, 100% of my friends were like 10-4.
That's awesome, dude.
I'm proud of you.
That's really cool. It's good to have good friends like that are on board with your goals.
Totally.
And then when you do sink into your goals, I think inevitably you do lose a few, the ones that weren't really serving your future vision for yourself.
Sure.
They inevitably move off to the side, and that's probably organically a good thing for you. And who knows, maybe they come back in alignment with your vision in the future, but you can't move forward without leaving some stuff behind.
Right, right. And what pops into my head is, I have a few mentors, and they obviously get it because they're helping me through this journey, and they're saying, look, you got to do this, you got to do that, you got to cut this. A lot of times when you're trying to reach certain goals, it's not what you got to do more of, it's what you got to cut back on. I've been finding that's a new paradigm for me. It's just wow.
Really? Yeah.
In the sense of wanting to do more or adding things. No, it's bro, cut back on X, Y, and Z. And dude, it
helps you focus. But also, I think you realize that there's only so much time in the day. It used to be, I can find a way to be more efficient and do more. But then it comes to the point where you're pretty efficient at all the things you're doing, and there's still not enough. There's no more time for anything else. So then you got to start being selective and prioritize on what you're going to focus on. And that's cutting back on some things that weren't serving your grand vision. And we all are, I think it's part of just the human condition where it's your brain always is trying in the back of your head to give you, you should do those things that you don't really need to do. There's this thing, this is the important task, but these other things, then you think at the end of the day, you're no, that was the only task I needed to do. So
exactly. Oh my God, that happens so many times, man.
Yeah, you're no, I really need to, these are the phone calls I have to make, but I really should organize these and make sure that the numbers are right first and all that. And you're no, dude, just pick up the phone, make the phone calls. That's
exactly. Oh my God.
That's what really needs to happen. Somehow this little guy on the shoulder is chirping over here.
And we all have that. We all have that. If we didn't, everybody would be in a totally different place than they are now.
Yeah, or like Elon Musk, I don't know. He seems to be the one guy who doesn't have the chirp on, except his chirp is probably send some tweets.
Oh yeah,
Or,
let's stir the pot.
Yeah, or what is that? He's like top 20 Diablo. He's like, or hey, maybe I'll play some Diablo real quick.
Really? See, I have no idea.
Dude, he's like somehow, the 3 top companies in the world. And then on top of that, he's a top 20 Diablo player in like the entire world. And you're like thinking to yourself, what? This guy's a top video gamer too on top of all this?
Oh my God.
But hey, if any, and obviously someone like him, the whole family part is behind everything else on the priorities. And that's just not an option for people like me or a lot of other people. But obviously he's doing incredible things that are good for the world, and everybody's going to have a different order of operations for their priorities. So
right.
On that note, I did want to ask you, because one thing is that I think you're just such a unique person, because you don't end up talking to a lot of, I don't feel like I know a lot of musicians or artists that are just feeling really stoked on their business and have a grand vision for the future. I mean, it's a tough industry to break into, and there's a lot of challenges, but you're one of the people who I've, is just saying, hey, I got this every single day. And not really feeling, you definitely are making moves more than I see in other industries. So what gets you so excited about what you're doing, the art and the music?
What gets me excited is there's no cap to learning. There's no cap to creativity. There's no cap to any of it. So it's like, bro, especially with art, I mean, and music for that matter, there's nobody that's behind me when I'm doing a painting saying, oh, no, you can't do that stroke.
Yeah.
That's no, that you can't use that color. Mm-hmm. Or no, you can't play that
Ultimate
chord.
Freedom, yeah.
No, that lick doesn't go with that progression. Mm-hmm. There is nobody. Now, you can produce some art, music and art, with your own colors and your own vibe, all this stuff, and some people may not like it. But I think most people will see that genuineness and that passion and that life in the music or the art, right?
What's that? There's a quote from, I think is it Ross Rubin? Is that his name? Or Rick Rubin?
Rick Rubin, dude, he's amazing.
And he said, I was just on Joe, or it wasn't Joe. It was one of the podcasts recently where he said, the second that you start producing art for someone else,
boom, bingo,
is when it doesn't become. That's when you see a blockbuster movie that tanks, because they started trying to appeal to what the public wanted, more explosions and stuff, and the story, the authenticity was gone. But he's like, the actual job of the artist is to produce art for themselves that turns them on, and in turn, that's going to be the best thing for the public. So that is how you serve the public, is by serving yourself as an artist. And I thought that was a really cool comment, because that's about authenticity. When you're pursuing, the painting that you can't wait to paint, like that day you're inspired by it, and then you're doing it the way that you want. Hey, you might go through 2 or 3 paintings before you're happy with one, but the second that you're happy with one, usually that's the one that everybody else is going to be happy with too.
Right. Or with that, sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but that's what you just said there, that's going to be the painting everybody likes. But sometimes that's the painting that people don't understand because they don't know your mind, they don't know your process into it. But if you have a good story, then they're like, whoa, then they see it in a whole different light.
Really cool, yeah.
Right? Because you're like, yeah, you may not see much in it, but see this little section here, that reminds me of my childhood because XYZ. And then the heart, and then you have this whole story, and then they're like, I got the chills just talking about that. Now they see it in a whole different light, and now they're like, I understand.
And then all of a sudden the whole story connects with them, and oftentimes that'll be like the one that they resonate with and have on their wall, because it reminds them of that story that they relate to.
Exactly. And it also reminds them, I've sold paintings. There's this one time, it's happened a few times, but the first time it happened, mind blown, because somebody was looking at this painting. They go, that painting's pretty cool. It was like a waterfall with like some butterflies or something. She goes, that's pretty cool. And I was kind of like down on myself, like, she's not going to buy it. This was early on in my career. And she goes, you know what? I'll take it. I'll take it because I like you more than that painting. but I kind of like that painting. But that painting is going to remind me of you when it's sitting on my wall. And I'm like,
really cool.
Whoa, dude. So sometimes it's
that
not.
brought you out of the dump.
Yeah.
So
cool? Sometimes it's not the painting. It's the person or the or the group or whatever it may be.
Well, I think that's really cool too, because you know what you just said. You were kind of down in the dumps or whatever for whatever reason. Maybe besides that painting, it's just things in life were happening the wrong way. But then the universe threw that little chip at you, you know, and then that really brought you back up. I'm sure that inspired you and made you stoked. You thought about that. You still think about that to this day.
Absolutely.
And it keeps you stoked on making more paintings. So like, it's really cool that I think even to the point where, you know, Rick Rubin was saying, it's like when you truly try to create something for yourself, it's like an offering to God or, you know, the universe. And
amen to that.
And they bring it back. And then, you know, obviously it was encouraging you to continue doing that. That might have been even a transition point where you were starting to think like, maybe I want to do something else. And then that's what locked you back in, or there maybe have been multiple times.
Sure. I mean, it's definitely multiple. It's kind of like the building blocks of it. One more very quick story that's very similar to that. I did this painting and visualize this. So it was my first painting to where it was a 2 canvas painting. Okay. Look, I have paint on my.
Yeah.
I always paint everywhere.
Yeah.
2 canvas painting, and from your view, this side it was a woman. She was nude with a revolver, sitting down, kind of knees half bent, sitting down nude with a top hat on, pointing this way. Okay.
Okay.
And it was a really dark background. And then this canvas was slightly smaller, and same background, but it had a target, kind of like a old school cartoon target.
Red, white.
Yeah, exactly. But the middle, the bullseye, was a heart. Right. So she's looking for love, right? She wants to hit the bullseye. You know, dark background.
That's
right.
Cool.
So I thought the concept was cool, but I did not like the painting. Not even 1% of it. I just didn't like the way it came out. I liked the concept and the idea. I did not like it. So I threw it in the trash in my garage. And check this out. 2 months later, I'm cleaning the garage and I see just on the top of the trash, you know, a bunch of just random stuff sticking up everywhere. And I just see a corner of the canvas. I had forgotten that I'd thrown this painting away.
Yeah.
So I kind of yank it out and dig for the other piece. And I'm like, I'm just going to post this online. Let's see what happens. I hadn't posted it because I didn't like it.
Yeah.
Bro, till this day, it is the quickest selling painting ever.
Wow.
I sold it within a minute of me posting it.
Wow.
I just posted it and even put the price. I don't usually do that these days.
Yeah.
Posted it, named it, gave it a kind of a cool name. And yeah, sold.
Wow.
So
obviously it resonated with someone.
Yes. And that was another big lesson, dude. It may not resonate with you, but it's going to resonate with somebody. So I had several other stories in that same vein.
Interesting. That was a question. You know, I think with like art, I've always dabbled. I've never done anything to the level that you have, but it's always for me, it's always been kind of hard to let go of any creation. Because I'm always like, yeah, maybe it's like a hoarder mentality with your own personal like projects, but like even my doodles from high school, you know, I keep those. I've got them in one of my like memory drawers or whatever. And like even to this day, I like going back and looking at them. It makes me feel good. But I mean, when you're producing as much art as you are, do you have that kind of a connection? Is it hard for you to give up on a project canvas and just toss it out, or have you gotten pretty good at doing that? Or does that happen regularly, or how do you feel about that?
It actually, that's a good question. It goes back to how I price my paintings. I learned from an old mentor. I said, you know, how do I price these things? I don't know, because I used to sell them for a couple $100. Now I sell them for thousands. My most $39,000 for charity. Yeah, it was awesome, a really cool John Lennon I had done. Cool. So back to the question, how do I price these things? And he says, price them so that when you sell the piece, you're not going to be bummed out about it. Right? You'll be pretty stoked of the amount you sold it for, more than the piece itself. I imagine that there's a lot of artists who have, you know, a full garage that haven't been able to get rid of sell paintings fast enough. Get rid of. Yeah. so you know, I'm sure you probably have friends who do that. Maybe you've gone through moments in your career where that's been the case. Sure. How did you deal with that? There's a couple couple different ways to deal with that I personally do. Either be okay with having them available for purchase at I don't like to say a discounted rate, but that's what it is at the end of the day. It's almost like any business. If you got to get rid of some inventory.
If I've got rentals that are sitting there, I got to drop the price on the rentals because it's not making any money when it's making
exactly. Or I gather, different subjects. If I have 10 paintings here that are of rock stars and 10 paintings here that are of landscapes, I'll literally just hit up people. I won't be so broad in trying to sell them. I'll be like, oh, well, maybe this restaurant that's rock theme, let me talk to the manager and almost give these away.
Yeah,
in a sense.
And they'll want them for their walls.
And then they're on their walls. And
it's the right place to sell those paintings.
Exactly.
That's awesome, man. You see, I think that's really cool about you too, is that you've always had this really entrepreneurial mind. I think when we first kind of were talking, you were thinking, hey, I really would like to exchange, I'd like to have an office space away from my house, but also produce paintings for people more so as the rent. So it's more of like a exchange that way versus monetary, which I think is really cool when you can set up business relationships like that. But that's just like an entrepreneurial thought. And even what you just said about like, a lot of artists might just say, I love creating this artwork, but then they don't put two and two together. It's not going to sell at the farmer's market, but like rock paintings will sell at the rock cafe, and that's a cool connection. That's just that little thought is enough to make your business more viable than most artists. And I think that's where you've taken your business a little bit further than most artists that I've talked to.
Exactly.
Really cool, man. Well, I have a couple questions about your art. These ones are going to be more kind of rapid fire.
Sure.
So we can move it along. I'm really excited to get your guitar out in a little bit too, so you can answer some questions.
I have no idea how to play that.
Oh yeah, good thing. Hopefully, I brought that thing today. Hopefully, we're just going to see what it's like for a newbie to try it. So, what is your favorite thing to paint today?
My favorite thing to paint, if I'm very honest, I love to paint the human figure, specifically nudes.
Okay.
I just love female nudes.
Okay.
I just love just the curves, and specifically if the image has lots of shadows. I just love how when you're done with the painting, you can see your eye just finishes the piece. Even if the shadow's so just hitting so deep and it's dark here, and you can only see like part of her nose and maybe a chin, like your brain just finishes the rest.
I think that's probably because we're human. We are like, our brains are wired in the way where we recognize these shapes.
Sure.
And that's why there's maybe that you can be more abstract with it, because like we'll fill in our eyes will fill in the gaps. That's cool.
Sure.
On that note, I've seen a couple of your paintings. You do a lot of cool stuff that's just two color, just, white and shadows. I feel like that would be very difficult to do, because it's not like you're drawing the outline. You're almost doing the inverse, a lot of it. You're doing the shadow first. What's your process like when you look at a blank canvas to like create a figure or a face?
Oh man, what's the process like? Well, painting, I personally don't see the whole thing in the beginning. Really, what an image is just shapes. If you really think about it, you can look at anything. You can look at this microphone here and be like, that's a microphone. But if you were to sit here and draw it or paint it, you just focus on this shape and then this shape and then this shape. And then you start looking at the shadows. And those are shapes. So it's almost like just you're putting the puzzle pieces together. And then you create an image. Almost like writing a song. You start with the riff. Oh, this riff is cool. And you repeat it. Right? And then you're like, okay, you don't know the
you're playing with stuff.
Yeah.
And then you tie it together at the end. You erase one part and you put another one. I mean, or in the case of painting, you just kind of figure out a way to incorporate that mistake.
Yeah, exactly. And I learned from Jerome Gastaldi. He's my art mentor. He's the guy who does all the paintings. If you've ever been to a yard house, and see all these really cool abstract, even the coasters have his art on them.
Oh, wow.
So I go up to his ranch in Fallbrook.
Oh, that's cool.
And I learned a big lesson from him, staying on the topic of, how do you see a painting and where do you start and all this. A painting is almost never done in his eyes. It's really interesting. We pulled out a random canvas from his gallery, and you could tell the canvas had been sitting there for, I would say, at least 2-3 years.
Yeah.
Dusty, pulled it out. He's like, oh, he didn't even care what image it was. He laid it down, and then we just started like painting on it. And I'm like, dude, you can do that?
Like on an old painting that he already painted.
He's like, yeah, you can do 100 different layers
Oh, really?
You know?
Yeah. Well, that was what I was thinking
huh.
too. Like if you have a piece of artwork that you just really don't like, maybe you use it as inspiration to try to tweak it like you're talking about. Did he tweak it, or did you just straight up paint new on top of it?
No, he tweaked it, and it came out. I mean, if there's a way, maybe I can show after, you know.
Yeah, we'll throw some B-roll on.
Yeah. But I have a little bit of video and even photos of that example, and that was just another paradigm shift in my art career. And this was recently. This was only 2 months ago.
That's what I think is so cool with art, and really any field, but like I think art and music, it happens organically. It's just the rabbit hole is infinite. You just keep learning more and more. Like, even once you start feeling like, I'm mastering this, cool, I'm good, and then you start to get bored of it because you're like, I've been playing this style, or I've been painting the same style forever. Like, and then you get one thing like that. Oh, you know what? Maybe that's what I'll try. I'll try to tweak. There's that one painting that's been sitting in the corner for like a year. Maybe I'll just try to tweak it, and then I'll try this new method of seeing if I can get re-inspired, make it better today, and then that'll get me turned on. Maybe that's the new course for the next year, and that's like what you start to do, and then you go back to an old style that you were doing, and you incorporate some of the things you learned from that.
100%.
It's just like it never ends, and that's the same thing in business too. You know, in real estate, I learned new things about development, like building ADUs, the rules of the game, how you maneuver with the city planning, how you can avoid some certain big obstacles and make things more profitable. And
yeah, you're giving great insight, dude. I watch your videos. It's very valuable.
I appreciate it. I think I'm trying to. I know, just like you, when you talk about like, you start talking about like sevenths, ninths, and all this stuff, it's like it goes way over any normal person's head. I'm trying to like dumb down my speech so that I can, explain it to a third grader.
Sure.
And that's kind of been my goal for the next couple months of content, to make topics more digestible and understandable by the layman. But I also do a lot of high level stuff that people
who are in this
space like will resonate with. I think that's really that's been my attraction to art and music, and why I still pick up the guitar every night or play piano. It's just that it's like a really cool, like almost meditative thing. You're just like, it's like free form thought. It's like taking notes on what's in your head, but like you're just super in the zone in the moment. It's like everything else just gets quiet.
If anything, it's very meditative. Yeah. If anything,
it's like everything just gets quiet, and then all of a sudden after you feel like you're stressed out before, after painting, I'm sure, or after playing guitar for like 30 minutes and actually just kind of coming up with stuff, like you feel all that stress that you had before is just gone.
I'll make one more point about the painting and how it's endless, and with writing a song, you can even go to the point where, like I did last week, I was like, I want to do a painting of the Statue of Liberty, but what if I paint with a bullet? And so I got my AR-15, and I got my mag out. I got it the 5.56 round, bullet round, and I dipped it in this oil paint. And then I just created the Statue of Liberty on a canvas by just dipping and dripping. And dude, it's awesome. And so someone will look at that and be like, oh, that's kind of an abstract Statue of Liberty. Yeah, it was painted with the bullet. Then the story is just like, right?
You almost need to accompany it with a photo of you painting it with the bullet.
Oh, I have video and photo, so I have all that.
But that goes back to the first thing we were talking about, how the story oftentimes is what resonates more than the painting itself, and that can spark all of the connection for someone. But that's a really cool, I think that's so creative, Statue of Liberty with a bullet, it's like juxtaposition.
Well, and we call them freedom seeds.
Yeah, freedom.
So, painting the Statue of Liberty stands for freedom with the freedom seed. Let's go.
I always think that's a really cool topic with paint, or with just art in general, is when there is that juxtaposition that makes you think. Those are always the most moving pieces for me, where I'm like, oh wow, that's a perfect depiction of this contradiction in society.
Totally. Totally.
One of the things I just want the listeners to know, he does a lot of really cool events where he'll do private events, and he starts with paintings and then moves into art, and will play with bands or do solo. He's a great entertainer, life of the party, and he'll do paintings of people at the party, or really whatever is of interest. But I've seen you do a lot of cool paintings, like you mentioned Lennon, or you were at the Padres game and you painted Machado right as he cracked a home run.
Oh my gosh, that's divine right there, dude. That's God just being like, I literally did last stroke, heard the crack, crowd went wild, fire goes up. I look back, I'm like, did he just hit a home run? Grab the painting, just run up and down the Templeton deck, and everybody's like, what?
How crazy
it was like,
that,
you can't plan that kind of stuff.
Seriously. Yeah, bro, it's awesome. And like you said, divine, and this universe just giving you a hint that you're doing the right thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Pat on the back.
I look for those all the time. Yeah. Sometimes I'm like, what, is this the path?
For sure, man.
You know, but.
Quick little break and then we'll move into music. So, hey guys, I just want to interrupt real quick this podcast because Sergio just brought a pretty big announcement to the table. He says he's recently been talking to a pretty big client. You want to go into that? Yeah,
the PGA of America headquarters. I was on a Zoom call with them just 2 days ago.
Pretty awesome.
Yeah, it is really awesome, man. I had performed at the Masters 2024. They flew me out to Augusta. I did some live paintings of some of the pros there, Colin Morikawa, and a few others. And they saw what I did there and called me last week, said, hey, we want to get on a call with you. And we have this big PGA event. It's industry only. It's in Orlando, third week of January. Are you available? Wow. I'm like, let me check my schedule now. Yeah. And so, dude, it was long story short, we got on the call and, we just, the rapport was great. And yeah, we did the deal. So
that's awesome, man. Wow. What a cool, I think this is, it's just a testament to that you just keep growing, man. I mean, that's probably the biggest client. Is that one of the biggest clients you've ever worked with? Probably one of the biggest. Yeah. And it's going to be fun, man. Cause I know going into it, again, it's all industry. There's going to be lots of CEOs and pros and just creative people in general because they're creating new products and, showing opens up to a great network. I'm sure you're going to talk to a lot of these people and get to learn something cool from them and maybe they'll learn something cool from you, create a cool relationship moving forward, open up more clients like the PGA for you moving forward. Oh, yeah. Well, really cool, man. I want to talk about music because that's something we both share passion on. I mean, you've been it sounds like you were first and foremost a musician and then eventually got more into artwork. But, what kind of instruments do you play? And what's your favorite type of music to play? So I play mainly guitar and sing. I've been hired to play banjo and ukulele and mandolin, but I'm not well versed in those by any means. But they are stringed instruments and figure out some notes and chords, but mainly guitar. That's one thing that I recently was like, it'd be really cool to pick up a ukulele because that's so portable. Sure. And take it on an airplane and go really anywhere or just have it in the car all the time. But when I picked one up the other day, I was like, man, this is way different than the guitar, or at least it feels that way on the front end. You got like the top and the bottom string are like the same, and then the two middle ones are different. It's tuned like a violin, if I'm not mistaken. So you have to kind of retrain your brain to hit certain chords. Right. Like I think, and don't quote me on this, I think that the D chord on a ukulele is like a G on guitar. Okay. So, or the flip side. Two anyway, on the bottom, two. Kind of like the triangle. I think that's actually like a G when you're playing ukulele. Okay. If I'm not mistaken, but see again. Yeah. You kind of just figured. I mean, when you're at your level, you could probably figure out what the notes are, and then kind of, your brain's ready to pick that up pretty quick, so you can kind of play around a little bit quicker than someone like me. Let's put it this way: I've actually, no joke, have played Freebird on a ukulele. And people went nuts, dude. They went nuts. That's awesome. It was great. Well, cool, dude. Well, why don't you pick up your guitar and there's a lot of different styles of guitar. This one, I've never seen a guitar quite like this. What is this? It's an Ovation. So I bought this when I was 18 years old, exactly 20 years ago. Wow. Yeah. Wow, that's your OG guitar. This is the OG guitar. It's never seen the inside of a shop. I've never had it set up. This is set up perfectly. It sounds great. Yeah. I mean, it's got some character. Yeah, I mean, look at the back. This is what I use for my live paintings, Yeah. And again, I'm the least gearhead person ever, or I don't care if a guitar falls and gets a nick or paint on it. Well, this is a nice one because it looks like it's harder to nick because it's a sturdy material. Yeah. Yeah, this is great, man. And I love this guitar. It sounds great, unplugged and plugged in. Awesome, dude. Well, why don't you play a little bit of the style that when you pick up a guitar these days, what do you find yourself playing? Ooh, I like that. Spanish vibes? Yeah, I think it was, it started, my grandfather was a great
flamenco guitar player. And I first started playing guitar because specifically every Christmas, we'd have him over, he'd bring a couple guitars, and he would just sit there and just play that kind of stuff. I mean, he would play a few like full songs, but he would just kind of like just sit there and dabble, and everybody just was like glued. And even if they weren't glued to what he was doing, maybe they were having a side conversation, but you can tell it brought a vibe.
Oh, yeah.
And I was young. I didn't know what a vibe was, but I can sense it and feel it. And I'm like,
well, that's music.
I want to do that.
Yeah.
I want to do that because this makes people happy and it brings.
And you know what? That specifically related to you, but like I feel like everybody kind of has that aha moment when they're listening to some music that just like floods them with inspiration, and it sounds like that's what that was for you.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
100%.
And that got you hooked on it, huh? So how old were you?
I was, well, that was all throughout my childhood, but I finally picked one up at 15.
And then you just kind of, were you classically trained, or did you just pick it up and start YouTubing, or what'd you do?
I picked it up. YouTube was barely coming out when I first started playing guitar, so I would learn from friends. I started playing for the church, and a guy named Dave Tibbetts was the MD, musical director. And of course, I learned simple chords and whatnot, you know, this stuff. But there's one practice before church where he played this. He goes, and I was like, what is that, bro? And he's just like, oh, he goes, oh, it's nothing. And I was like, can you teach me that? He's like, yeah, just.
I love that, dude. I think, you know, what you mentioned, your inspiration thing with flamenco, for me, it was the blues.
Yeah.
And that's what I was like, damn, this is like a weird feeling that I'm getting from this music, you know? And that's what really, I was like, I got to learn the guitar again, you know? And I started when I was younger, kind of more forced, like family, hey, you're going to take guitar lessons. I'm like, all right, well, I'll do it. And I was never really that stoked on it.
Right.
I ended up diving into piano and like just went really deep in piano. I'm pretty proficient in piano now, but then cool. I got kind of, that's like when I jam with people, I usually play the keys because that's the one I can kind of like figure anything out on.
Sure.
But
you can't hit a wrong note, really. I mean, you can, but
yeah, I'm still not to the point where I can just John Mayer like roll into whatever, you know? but that's the one I'm most proficient in. But then I recently got back into guitar last year, and I remember it was because of that blues. I heard a blues lick just like what you played, which has so much feeling, you know. I mean, it's like overwhelming. And I was like, I got to pick up the guitar again and figure out how to do that because that moves people, you know.
It really does.
Moves yourself. Yeah.
It really does. And I respect blues music because for the most part, it's not like, how do I put this? A lot of bands, let's just take the band Queen, right? When Queen is out there playing a song, they're playing a very, very structured song, right? What people hear on the album, they want to hear that same guitar solo that's on the album. They want to hear it live, right? And it's just very structured. Now, the blues, of course, it has structure, absolutely, with the progressions and whatnot. But, you know, if a song on the record goes like... Well, when you're playing live, you can just like, what's up, everybody?
Yeah. You can control the crowd with that kind of stuff.
Yeah, oops, wrong note there. But yeah, you know what I mean? So it's very, not to say
it's
that.
Kind of like improv.
Yeah, it's kind of like improv.
Yeah, it encourages that. And even with the licks and the solos and stuff, it almost encourages you to try something new. And that's what the crowd wants. Exactly. They want a new solo they've never heard before. Like was it, I mean, even though it was kind of bluesy, but that Prince solo on, that everybody knows it's like one of the best solos of all time on that live one with Tom Petty.
Oh my gosh, yeah. How's it?
Guitar Gently Weeps. While my guitar gently weeps.
Yeah, there's this really cool progression. Why can't I think of it right now?
I just learned that one the other day. And that's the one that like the last 2 weeks has been consuming me is the progression for just that. But I haven't figured out soloing at all, and that's like kind of the next one that I want to learn because I'm still on cowboy chords where you are right now, and I'm trying to push myself to find my way up the neck and then get more comfortable at other spots. But I can't remember where we were going with that, but you know, love this kind of stuff.
Yeah, well, we were just talking about the blues and how you just got stoked on that, and I kind of mentioned how the blues it's almost like painting. You could just kind of do anything.
And so that's where I was going, is that the crowd loves when they hear something new that's inspiring on a blues riff that they haven't, versus like what you said with Queen, where you want to hear the Queen song that you've like heard 100 times on the radio. That's what you want to hear. But blues, you almost want to hear something that kind of resembles what you know, but you want to hear like a nice little new take on it. And that's what's encouraged. It's like, that creativity is what I think the fans want to hear with blues.
Yeah, and I encourage anybody watching this, if you don't know what the hell we're talking about, seriously, just Google any B.B. King live. And this guy is just, not only is he the master, but he does this thing where he'll just like sit in his chair and, they'll be playing the song, but then he'll just kind of lean back and he'll just kind of talk to the crowd, and his band already knows his whole deal, right?
Yeah.
And he'll just instruct the band, like, okay, like let's go to the 4 or whatever, and it's just really cool. It's really free flowing, and I don't know how to explain.
And he almost pulls out. He usually plays with a couple other artists who are all like really stoked to be on stage with B.B. King.
Yeah,
and he sits back and like really pushes the other artists to do something cool too. He's. It's and that's what the blues is about. It's like it's pulling out new stuff from people. It's like experimenting on stage.
It really is.
Let's go back really quick, and I'm sure you have some like original stuff. How do you feel about artists like Queen that we mentioned, like they want to hear the same song every time? Do you feel like an artist can get sick of their own music, but that's what the audience wants? It's a hit song.
Absolutely. You see that all the time when you go to shows live, and it's maybe a band that you've heard of, Leonard Skinner just pops to mind. Everybody is expecting them to play Freebird for the last song, as the last song. And when they don't, the fans could have had the time of their lives the whole show. But then when Leonard Skinner says thank you, good night, without playing Freebird, which was the expectation of the vast majority of the crowd, then they walk away from that concert saying, man. And
you can imagine that Leonard Skinner is like, I just can't do it again. I've played this song 5,000 times. It actually is, I hate it now, Yeah. And maybe he doesn't actually feel that way, but I could see as an artist, that it almost becomes like a chore to do the song that everybody loves. But I do respect the artist. I mean, I'm sure that they feel that way to some degree with a lot of the songs that they've played that many times. But I respect the ones that still show up and find a way to really bring the energy.
Sure.
And, create that experience for the fans.
Yeah.
Even so.
But at the end of the day, too, I think the people just need to realize that they're human, too. And we humans want to grow and progress in something. And if that means that the band wants to, in their eyes, grow and progress towards doing something a little bit different, they're going to lose a lot of the fans that have liked their stuff from day one. Perfect example is Metallica. The first few albums, they were just pretty much thrash metal, just heavy, great music, right? Once they came out with Nothing Else Matters in the early 90s, which was a ballad, they lost so many fans. But they also gained so many fans because they're like, wow, okay, I didn't know they had it in them. This is good music. This is listenable, right?
Well,
to some people.
I think that you have to give yourself, like we go back to Rick Rubin, you have to give yourself the freedom to evolve and continue pursuing what inspires 100%. You. I mean, you're obviously not always going to be inspired by the same style of music. And, like a band like Metallica, or I think Taylor Swift is a great example because like they say she's kind of gone through every single different genre of music. And, the fans have stuck. Some fans probably left behind and some like a certain genre, they move on, but they've given her the freedom and she's given herself the freedom to kind of explore all those different things. And I think you have to as an artist, otherwise you're going to get over the stuff too. And I think as a fan, you have to try to appreciate that the guy's still trying to come up with new stuff and hopefully something hits with or resonates with you that's new. And that's part of the process with painting too, right? I mean, someone said every first draft sucks.
Yeah.
And so you gotta, but without doing a couple first drafts or second drafts, you never get to a finished product. So you just kind of got to try stuff, like you said. So on that note, what's your process for just a jam session if you're going to come up with something? Like you said you kind of start with a riff and it evolves into something. You mind trying to do that for like the next minute and a half, kind of see what we come up with?
Yeah, like if you're in a jam session or writing a song?
Writing a song. Really whatever you would do if you sat down, picked up the guitar, and tried to come up with something today, whatever genre that might be.
So, yeah, I'm just going to start with just an E chord, right? It's all going to start there. And at least for me, and by the way, I don't consider myself like this really talented songwriter. That's a whole different skill that there are some people who could just sit down in a day and write 10 songs. right? I don't put myself in that category. However, back to your question. So, yeah, now I'm just trying to figure out the groove. All right, cool. Do I want that? Or do I want it? You can do a vocal melody or whatever over any of those, right? Or do I want to do a little faster?
That's easy too, just eat.
Keep it bluesy, go to the 5.
Ooh, I love that.
So, yeah, man, it's whatever you're feeling. That's the cool thing about music. It's like, what is the artist and the creator of that song to be? What is their energy? What are they trying to say?
Yeah, and that same, if I play that or anybody tried to play something like that, it's going to sound different. It's going to sound like that person. That one sounds like Sergio, and someone's going to like that music almost because they like Sergio, just like the artwork.
Just like the artwork, sure.
So cool, man. Well, I have a couple questions here. Let me just run through this really quick. I think this is one I really wanted to talk to you about because, I have similar passions to you in that I love music and love to do artwork. But one of the dilemmas I faced, and I think a lot of people face when they're choosing a career path, is do I pursue my passion for my career, or do I pursue a career that will allow me to do my passion unrestricted in the future? I think that we're kind of on both opposite sides of that.
Okay.
Well, to me, it sounds that way. Like you've pursued your passions as a career. Do you feel that way?
I do feel that way. However, not to say that when I moved to California back in 2007, I did find a day job, and I was playing music by night.
Okay.
So I was doing both. Of course, I focused more on playing in bands and playing shows, and it was my dream to play the Whiskey A Go-Go. I did that several times, so I almost feel like I made it, right? Just a small town New Mexico boy playing at the Whiskey. Now, quick story, I picked up a paintbrush at 24 years old, 4 years into being here in California. And long story short, I was still playing shows by night, and back then I was playing 2, 3, 4, sometimes 5 times a week. And I knew for certain reasons that I was going to leave the company. I'd kind of gotten an injury, and that's kind of a whole other story. I knew I was going to leave the company, so I asked myself, what the hell do I want to do during the day? And when I asked myself that question, of course, the first answer was like, well, I don't want to find a day job. Like I was tired of just working for somebody and having a quota and having this and that.
Takes the fun out of it.
Yeah. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to teach myself how to paint because it's fun, it's creative, and I can make an impact. And I think that's what a lot of, especially, I'm not talking musicians, but artists like painters, they don't figure out a way how to make an impact, right? And whatever that looks like, they're painting, yes, they're making an impact because they're making people feel things. But I knew that with my paintings, people buy them for money. Maybe in the future, I can do some charities so people buy my art with that money and we can give that money to people who need it.
Right. So you can pair it, you can take it that one dimension further.
Yeah.
I think also what's one other, you said like, what do people want? How do we make an impact? I think one big impact of your work and everything you do is beyond the artwork itself standalone or the music standalone. It's like the whole experience that you create on a live show.
Right.
And that resonates with people a lot in the moment when they're out trying to have a good time. It's something really new. I mean, how has anybody been to a brewery where they've seen a guy paint and do a full live show? I mean, I haven't.
Yeah. It's a pretty unique thing.
It's really unique, and people talk about that. And in fact, it does create that impact translates to more dollars, because not only are you getting shows and stuff, but the people that you're affecting at those shows are also probably getting your card and finding ways to and becoming clients buying your artwork,
right?
Or going to repeat shows and building community and all that. So what you said about creating impact, I think is huge for any industry, really for artwork. So that's really cool, man.
If you can lead with how you can help people or help the world, like literally any industry, anybody watching this, I don't care what you do, if you can find a way to give a little more. And people think, oh, I don't have enough money to give. Like, you don't have to give your money. Like, what's, either time, talent, or treasure.
You got this right here. What do you mean we give? It's figuring out what the problems are and using this to solve them. There's unlimited problems out there.
Right.
It's just, you kind of feel yourself drawn to one, look into it, learn a little bit about it, talk to people in that industry, figure out what the problems actually are, solve it, and then make it replicable. And then now it's a service that you can offer people and get paid for. And that's the entrepreneur mindset.
Right.
There's opportunity everywhere. Where I was going with that is, I think there are the two roads, and I think it's really cool that. And I think the key that allowed you to pursue passion is that you have that entrepreneur mindset that allowed you to and you just have this positive mindset where you see the glass half full everywhere. And versus like running into walls and then kind of like saying, I'm like restricted again. You're like, oh no, there's this door's closed. Okay, there's 3 other doors over here. We're just going to keep moving. We're going to keep swimming through and figuring out.
Yeah, I had this conversation last night with a buddy.
Yeah, and so that's I think that's really cool, and it's inspiring to see that you've found your way to where you are today. I think one of the concerns that I had when I was making the decision between the 2 life paths was, there was a time where in real estate, or before real estate, where I've been very passionate about photography. I was like, I should just go do photography. And then I did try doing that a little bit with real estate. I did photography for all of my own listings. Everybody was like, oh, dang, those are good photos.
You're like, who'd you hire?
I was like, hey, I'll go do it for you, like $250 a pop. And I was doing it. Then I did 1,000 properties. And I started saying, I noticed that on the weekends, I didn't want to pick up my camera anymore.
Yeah.
And that's like when I'm out in the forest and stuff, I'm just like, I don't want to touch this thing. I definitely don't want to edit right now because I'm just so burnt out from that this whole week. And so it almost sucked the life out of the passion that I was pursuing. And so I think that's, I don't know, I think it's a common theme with people who try to do that. But it sounds to me like you found a way to avoid that. Or have you ever felt that feeling yourself in what you do?
To be honest, we all feel that to a certain extent. But I think the mindset I had in the very beginning was very different than most artists. I started painting because I wanted to learn a new skill. Not only did I want to learn a new skill, I wanted to be really good at it. And that alone gives you drive, right? But I promised myself that I was not going to paint to make money initially. Okay, I was not going to do that. I was going to paint my ass off and enjoy every stroke until somebody said, how much? I want that. And I think that's the difference where people, they paint their first few paintings and they're like, I want to be an artist. And they make a website, then they put it online. It's like, hey, everybody, here's my art. Want to buy it? And people are like, oh, that's cute.
And almost I think the key there is that they're looking for that for validation.
Exactly.
Versus finding the validation within themselves, which is kind of the route you took.
Yeah.
And that goes back to Rick Rubin, who we mentioned a couple times, who said, hey, inevitably when you're making it for yourself, eventually that's going to be what other people want. But when you're trying to please other people, that's not the intention there has to be correct. Otherwise that's not the way the universe works.
Yeah. And with that, I think that just kind of goes deeper. I like to call it noise. Like, I don't listen to the noise. There'll be people who don't like my artwork and there'll be those, how do they call them? Keyboard soldiers, or what do they, do you know what I'm talking about?
Keyboard warriors. Yeah.
Keyboard warriors. They'll talk smack online, and it's like
the trolls.
Yeah, dude, I put zero energy towards that because I know who I am. I know where I'm going, and you know what? Maybe I agree with them. You know what? That is a crappy painting, but the cool thing, I'm learning every single day and getting better every single day mindfully by waking up early and having certain goals. So you know what? Yeah, you may be right.
Yeah, you're alive, brother.
That painting does suck, doesn't it? Yeah, this song does suck. The cool thing, I'm getting better though.
And it is actually fun when you turn that bad energy into like a positive. That's like, it's not that it's like the way to get back at them, but that's the right way to handle it.
100%. Dude, like this even goes back to when I first started working out in my mid-20s. I'd go to the gym, and one of my buddies at the time, he was 10 years older, in his mid-30s, and he was pretty flabby, and he goes, oh, bro, just wait till you get my age. Like, dude, you're wasting your time. And it's like, bro, I'm 38 years old, man. I'm keeping it going, right? But to your point, using that as fuel, Like,
Yeah.
all right, mofo, I'm not you.
Yeah,
Okay. I don't
exactly.
strive to be like you.
Yeah.
Getting better every
Those are your
single day.
beliefs.
Those are your beliefs. Exactly.
Yeah, they're not in my head though.
Exactly. So yeah, man.
Well, that's awesome, man. Well, I got one last question for you. And that's just, what is the biggest challenge that you're currently facing, and what are you doing to try to overcome it?
I think the biggest challenge is, well, speaking of business, I mean, there's lots of challenges with different areas in life, right? But at least for my business, now I'm at the point where, okay, yeah, I get flown around and I play these gigs and I do these paintings and I'm doing all this stuff and I'm getting, speaking of like monetary, I'm getting hits here and there. I want to figure out a way how to create more cash flow in my life.
So you're doing a lot of active income, but
exactly.
you don't have a lot of money being made when you're sleeping. You have to be out and about. You have to be strumming. Is it more of a concern of just like today, or is it more like a future thinking? Like I want to be able to take a step back and play when I feel like it one day.
I think it's more of a today thing. I think if I even were to create some cash flow, I think I'd almost even paint more and maybe not so much do more gigs, but be more selective.
Is it paint more and play music less, or what do you mean?
No, just I would paint more and not necessarily play less music, but be more selective. I'm pretty selective already. I definitely have a minimum.
Yeah.
I definitely have fired clients because we just don't vibe. Maybe they were cool at first and then they kind of...
I think it's important to do that to stay aligned. Otherwise you end up feeling like like your passion is now work. You have to constantly be making those decisions to keep it fun for yourself, because that's what it's about. It's about having fun. Otherwise, if you stop having fun doing your passion, then it's not really passion. You start losing your love for it.
Yeah, I straight up won't work with musicians who I don't vibe with, where a lot of musicians will because they do it for a living and they need the gig, which again, there's nothing wrong with that. But well,
I think you have to start somewhere too. Like, you maybe have to start that way, but when you get to a point
100%.
where you can be more selective, then it's important to make those
100%.
decisions and prioritize what's important.
Yeah, but now in my career, I've been at it for over 2 decades. It's like, I believe it's okay to be choosy. So
do you feel like you want, like the cash flow would allow you to, I guess, instead of doing maybe public work, you can then do work that's in your garage and like maybe more exploratory and less concerned about it being, something that can be sold? Or what specifically do you think we want you to do?
So speaking of cash flow, honestly, that's why I texted you, I think it was like a couple of weeks ago, because your whole plug is Cash Flow Alexio.
Yeah, Cash Flow Alexio Show. Yeah.
I'm like, that's awesome, man. Yeah. So that's honestly why I texted you. And I was like, well, I want to talk to my friends who know about cash flow. I don't care what industry they're in, right? Just to get inspired. I think I just desires the cash flow so that I can keep building. Because if I'm concerned with this and that and this and that, and I don't have stuff going, like I almost feel, so I guess to answer your question, yeah, I feel like I have to keep doing this. Not that I don't like it, but I would like to give more of my time and energy into proactively helping people, whether it's like in a therapeutic setting, whether it's which I guess, that
your passions are evolving and you want the freedom to pursue whatever you feel like.
Yes, exactly. There you go.
Okay.
You answered my question perfectly.
I think the reason I was able to do that is because that's literally the reason why that is my reason for pursuing cash flow, is because I think that I'm kind of an ADD type where my passions like today are, when I'm on my free time, I'm playing guitar. But a couple of years ago, it was taking pictures every moment. And then, like a couple months ago, it was riding my e-foil everywhere. So and I just know that I'm always going to have new stuff that inspires me that I want to pursue. And cash flow is the key to being able to do that, because I'll get to a point where, that money's just, I've got an allowance essentially every month. That's the cash flow. And that'll cover all of my basic needs and fun stuff. And then if I want to pursue something new, I can just do that. But I don't have to do it with the intention of it like being financially profitable immediately. I can do it because it's what I'm interested in, and it can take me a year. It can be a total charity project. But I don't have the looming thought in the back of my head, I'm going to keep food on the table for myself and my family at the end of the month. So for me, generating cash flow comes from managing and operating and owning and constantly investing in apartments, which I think is also, especially in markets like San Diego, it's an honorable thing to do because we have such a limited supply of housing, and we don't have enough affordable housing. Like, cost of houses are through the roof. The cost of rent is through the roof. It's like, it's hard to get by. And the reason for that is that we don't have enough housing, and it's a complicated problem to solve here.
Sure.
Because of all of the restrictions with the city, all of the, there's
there's a lot of red tape that you have to.
There's a lot of red tape, and they've gotten good with the ADU laws of removing a lot of that and kind of opening the doors to actually try to catch up with our demand for housing. And that's what we're implementing right now, building ADUs all over town and finding projects where we can add units or add bedrooms to make houses have better utility.
Sure.
And in tune, what's the reward for that? We end up with higher property values that we can pull money out of through cash out refi or flip and sell. And then I can go, take that one property that I did and do 2 more, then take those 2 and do 4 more.
Oh,
it's like exponential growth.
I love that, dude.
And it's really cool to think of it that way, because exponential growth is fun.
Yeah.
Dang. Well, this year it's going to be tough, but next year it's going to be a little easier. And the next year it's going to be 4x, 8x. It kind of runs out of control. But then, eventually that's the goal right now. That's what I'm doing. And honestly, it might not be the same strategy for you, because it does take a lot of mental energy day to day to manage construction projects. For people who do have full-time jobs or are full-time musicians, I think that the goal should be to constantly find ways to invest your money in something. You have to
learning, dude, in learning and in applying so that your money can grow somehow, right?
Right. And you can invest with real estate people like me. They're called syndications. There's also real estate investment trusts, there are REITs, there's DSTs, there's ways to get involved in real estate. There's also, the standard stock market investments where you get into something like an ETF, like SPY.
Sure.
That's just moves with the whole market. But if you're not doing that already, you should at least be, there's this one company called Wealthfront that it's every month you set it. So whatever you think you can afford every month, it just automatically takes out of your account and invests it in SPY or VTI or whatever you set it to.
Right.
But I would just recommend one of the general market funds. But what's cool about that is it just does it every single month. So it's not at the end, one point in the year, you're like, oh man, I've got 30 grand in my account. I should put 20 in there. Oh man, 20 is so much money.
Yeah.
In reality, but what happened is it was just every month. So it's a slow bleed. You just get used to that. That's just your rent that you're paying. And then all of a sudden, 2-3 years pass, that's been growing with the market.
Yeah, without you even thinking about it.
It's not such a blow, especially for people who aren't, making $20,000 wires. Psychological effect of that makes it a lot easier to start growing your money. Because what you really need to do is you got to get $100,000, $200,000 to really get your first property. That's and I always recommend multifamily over buying a house than renting it out. People are like, I'm going to buy a house and rent it out. I'm like, dude, the numbers are way better. The
multifamily
duplex that's $1 million versus a house that's $1 million, you're going to get an extra $1,500 a month from the duplex.
And who wouldn't want that?
Or the fourplex or the triplex, whatever you can pull off. The more units, the better. The returns are better on the price point. And then ideally something where you can, maybe it has 2 garages that, maybe not this year because you just dropped $150,000 in the down payment, but maybe next year or the year after that, you've saved up a little bit more money and you can then convert those garages. Now you've increased the value of the property. Now you can pull out some money and do it again on another one. And that's probably the speed at which someone like you or a W-2 employee could start getting involved and start building passive income.
Dude, and that's going around, I live near SDSU, and I see some garages being, now they're putting doors with the code and the window. I'm like, whoa.
No, it's great. Yeah,
just converting.
I've personally got 5 projects over there. I was there yesterday meeting city inspectors because I converted a garage. But we're going through the motions to get it all fully permitted now. And luckily there's some new rules that passed that made it easier to do that.
That's good for you guys, man.
Yeah, it's great. And it's a good model too. And it's not only for the student rentals. I'm now exploring the special needs housing and independent living situations where it's roommate situations that are actually, for special needs or for sober living, or there's also just recovery or shelter programs.
Deal then, huh?
Yeah, kind of, but you don't also, I'm exploring what the business looks like because I might actually have interest in creating that business because it does look profitable and it also is, it's a high demand.
Sure.
And it works with a lot of the houses that I already own and I'm already the model that I'm doing.
There you go.
But if I don't have the bandwidth to manage, there's people who operate those businesses who would lease the property and then, I just get a steady income every month from that operator and then they go and operate their business. And then, I'm also thinking long term, how everybody wants to feel good about doing good things for other humans and investing in humanity. if I'm looking to expand that business and I really master it, I figure out like that's the problem that I solve, and now I'm trying to replicate it really fast, and I don't have enough income, I don't have enough investment myself. I want to draw an investment from the public. A lot of people are going to want to invest in that kind of a business. Like imagine you're around hey, I just invested $100,000 with my buddy in a special needs housing project. Like like people are going to feel good about that.
Oh yeah.
And they're going to make good money off of it. But that's going to, that's my vision, is I think that it's just like, that's where the universe is pushing me, is to try to really solve that problem and do it at scale for society. And that's another way that you can get invested in, is finding things that call to you. That makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, not to say, I do have slow drips and some investments. My wife and I invested in this really, really cool champagne. Well, we can't call it champagne.
Sparkling Champagne France.
Exactly. Sparkling wine company. We're called Barace, and it's a fantastic product. It's super delicious, and it packs a punch at like 16% ABV when usually. It
sounds to me like that called to you.
Yeah, well, and I figured, like, I'm in the industry of entertainment and events. It's like, why can't I do a live painting, provide some music, do some MC work, and then
talk about a product.
Yeah, talk about a product, and here's some sparkling wine for the party.
That could be a great way. And I think that you can kind of keep working that angle and thinking of if something will click that you're like, hey, this will vibe really well with the things I'm already doing.
Right.
And that's where you can kind of help amplify the push of that investment in that product. Anyway, dude, we're going on a little over an hour now, so let's wrap this thing up.
Sergio, thanks, my brother.
That was awesome having you on the podcast. Thank you, brother.
Thank you, bro. I appreciate you.
And hey, guys, if you want to get in touch with Sergio or book him for one of your events, we're going to put his information in the show notes, but why don't you just go ahead and throw out your Instagram handle and the best way to get in touch with you?
Yeah, man. Instagram handle is simply Sergio's Art and Music, all one word, super easy to remember. SergiosFineArt.com. You'll find all my artwork and booking information there. And then simply my first and last name, SergioGutierrezMusic.com, will have more of the music stuff. So
awesome.
Thanks for having me on, brother.
Thank you, dude. And yeah, guys, be sure to like and follow the podcast. It helps us get more guests like Sergio on here, and Sergio's going to do big things. I'm sure if you follow this, or you just follow the news in San Diego, you'll be hearing a lot more of this guy. And maybe even the PGA Tour. Who knows?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's happening January.
All right. Thank you, brother.
All right. Thanks, man.